right? And we're gonna jump into it because I think, like me, most of you are here for the free yoga, right? That's why I agreed to come.
Start practice.
Right, exactly. So this picture pretty much speaks to the problem, right? We know if you spend any time in a gym whatsoever, you've seen this phenomena. It's like as predictable as the tides, right? On December 31st, there's no one there. On January 1st, there's a whole new crop of people you've never seen before. And that's not the problem. The real problem is that come February 1st, the gym's empty again, right? And the numbers behind this, I'm not going to bore us with too many numbers, but the numbers support this anecdotal observation. About 45% of the American population make New Year's resolutions every year. 34%, so almost all that 45%, make a health-related or weight loss resolution, okay? So that explains the influx of people. And by June, 54% of people have given up, and only 8% have actually achieved success with their New Year's resolution by the end of the new year. So it's pretty horrible, and why do we suck so bad at New Year's resolutions? The problem probably has something to do with that we don't understand what a New Year's resolution is. You said it, a New Year's resolution is just a goal stated in a slightly different way. So if you want to have success with your New Year's resolutions, you want to make them to be SMART goals. SMART goals is a mnemonic, and you want them to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So we're going to go through these real quickly. Specific, it really pays to sort of define what you want to do as clearly as you can. Define what's going to be success and what's going to be failure. It's the difference, I would imagine most of you are like me. We want to be more consistent with our workouts. So it's not enough to say, I want to work out more consistently. You want to say, I'm going to work out 3 times this every week for the next 52 weeks, okay? You want your goals to be measurable, whether we're talking inches, pounds, seconds, right? We want a metric. Find a metric. The nice thing about finding a metric, it drives the plan. So say if you're a runner, you probably want to be a faster runner, right? It's not enough to say you want to run faster. It's like saying, I want to run a 5K. I want to run up my PR in a 5K. If that becomes your goal, and that's your metric, all of a sudden you're going to start having to bang it out short interval repeats, right? So it helps with the plan. We'll get to that in a second. This one's perhaps the hardest one. The goal needs to be attainable. And if you're making one goal, you got to find that balance. If it's too easy, it's not worth doing. If it's too hard, you're going to learn that pretty quickly and you're just going to give up. Right? So you have to find that balance between easy and making it too hard so it's frustrating. Or what I like to do is set a set of tiered goals. I do this all the time if I'm doing a race. So you need at least 3 goals in my mind. The one goal is like pretty easy essentially. If you just work the plan, you're going to meet that goal. The middle is the one that strikes the balance between challenging and obtainable. And the one is a real reach, right? You're going to have to avoid injury. The weather's going to have to be perfect. I'm going to have to catch a tailwind, all that kind of stuff, right? And then relevance. It has to be relevant. This one's pretty easy when it comes to New Year's resolutions. So if you wake up on January 1st and you're thinking about it, it's pretty much relevant to you, right? Where we get into trouble with relevance is when we pick random goals. Ones that don't fit into our idea of what we really want, like our other goals. Like for me, I spent a lot of time lifting weights as a kid, and if you ask me today, a year from now, would I want to be stronger? Would I want, to increase my single repetition max bench press? Yes, of course I do, right? But that doesn't fit into my current idea of what health and fitness is. It doesn't fit with my other goals. So don't pick random ones. Make ones that fit and facilitate your other health goals. And then time-bound. The best goals are time-bound. It's the difference between saying I want to run a half marathon versus I want to run a half marathon by Halloween. Okay? So now that we know what a good goal is, what a good New Year's resolution is, how do we take it from a good idea to successful completion? Perhaps the most important, powerful thing you can do is write it down. Write it down on a piece of paper. And when you write it down, use power words, right? Say, I will. Instead, I'm going to try, right? I mean, it's a subtle difference, but it's a real difference, right? So then you write it down on a piece of paper, and you keep it, and you review it. It's a way of focusing your attention, finding ways to remotivate yourself. Share it with somebody. Share it with someone who's going to keep you accountable, your spouse, your best friend, or put it on Facebook, right? Like one of my fat linebacker friends from college, he decided he was going to run a marathon, and I'm going to keep him to that, right? So, and I do that with my own sort of professional Facebook page. I've been putting New Year's resolutions up there for a couple years. I post weekly updates. I get a fair amount of support from that. I don't know if it's entertaining or not, but I do, for me personally, it keeps me accountable. It keeps me getting out of bed in the morning when I'd rather just kind of sleep in, right? So, and you can look up there, and there are some elements of the SMART goals up there, so I actually practice what I preach. And then, so we've got SMART goals, we've got them, written them down. The next thing we do is you have to plan what we want to do.
I liked that.
What's one?
I liked that post.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you did.
That's so supportive.
Right. So hopefully if you've incorporated some of these SMART principles, the plan just leaps off the page at you, right? So if you decided you're going to run a half marathon by Halloween, boom, you go to the internet and you find yourself a half marathon plan, right? And then you just put it into your calendar and you work the plan. So once you've got your idea, you've written it down, you plan the work, and you've got to work the plan, right? And consistency is the key. I think from the lessons of consistency is probably best illustrated by our ideas of weight loss, right? These heavily marketed ideas of weight loss, they all promise, quick results with little effort, right? That is true because it's a proven method to sell books and magazines and DVDs. It's not an effective way to lose weight and to keep weight off. Whether we're talking about losing weight or becoming a better athlete, it's best to sort of focus on long, slow, steady effort. Number one, it's more healthful. It's not advisable to lose more than a pound per week. You play around with your basal metabolic rate, you can screw up your electrolytes. If you try to add too much volume and intensity to your workouts, you run the risk of overtraining, like stress fractures and tendonitis, right? Number two, a slow, steady approach is more sustainable. If you try to do these quick things, or these quick fixes, it feels like sacrifice, right? There's a lot of effort. And if you're only going to be able to do that for a short period of time. But on the other hand, if you just make small little tweaks to your routine, you minimize the perceived amount of effort, you minimize the perceived amount of sacrifice, and you're going to be able to stick to that. I think, staying with the weight loss theme, if you just type in the word diet into an online dictionary, you get this. This came right out of Merriam-Webster's. If you look at the bottom definition of the word diet, right? A regimen of eating and drinking sparingly so as to reduce one's weight. That's probably what most of us think about as a diet, right? This is the marketing message, right? This tells you don't eat anything for a week, drink nothing but crushed juice, right? And you'll be at your goal weight in no time. The problem is, when you go back to eating and drinking your regular routine stuff, those 10 pounds are right back there. They're right back on, right? You're right back where you started. If you focus on this one and making small little changes to the routine, to the food and drink that you regularly consume, that can lead to real long-term body transformations, right? So losing weight is simple math. If you eat more than you burn, you're going to gain weight. If you want to lose weight, you have to run a calorie deficit. It's simple math. You can forget all the other little tricks and tips. It's really simple math. If you run the calorie deficit by either eating less, burning more, or probably the best is a combination of both. To lose a pound, you got to run a calorie deficit of 3,500 calories. To lose a pound a week, 3,500 divided by 7, that's 500 calories a day as a daily deficit. Not impossible, but kind of hard, right? If you take a more conservative goal, say half a pound a week, that's 250 calorie daily deficit. 250 calories is one slice less cheese that you eat in a 30-minute run. In my mind, that's sustainable, right? That leads to long-term changes. So, how much and how long do we have to work out? I guess that sort of depends on the athlete and depends on the metric, what you're talking about, but there are some general recommendations. 150 minutes a week to maintain fitness. That's 20 minutes of heavy breathing a day, right? If you want to improve your fitness, you probably have to get any closer to 215 minutes. Some people say 250, but 215 minutes a week, that's 30 minutes a day. If you want to stick to like the 5-day work week, that's 45 minutes a day, which isn't too bad, but a fair amount. I think you have to make time in your schedule for that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
A study that just came out that showed that people who work out even an hour a day and they go back to their desk jobs are still considered that it's sedentary.
Right.
And somebody just said in our class, so, you probably need 2 hours a day. And I was like, that isn't sustainable.
That isn't sustainable. I think I saw similar kind of reports. I think the way I think about that is more than just sitting at my desk for 8 hours a day. I think that there's lots of recommendations about there. Every 20 or 30 minutes, set a timer, get up and walk around the office, stretch, do some squats, do some lunges, and I think you avoid that active couch potato thing. Right. All right. So then, how long do you have to kind of put in this kind of effort? My point is it should be a constant thing. It should be the pursuit of a healthy lifestyle. It's not, I'm going to work out for the next 3 months. But if how long do you want to do these sort of things before you expect to see changes? We already sort of talked about weight loss. I think a pound or a half a pound a week is a pretty good goal. Now, how long does it take to build muscle if you want to put on muscle, right? We're talking about lean body mass. If you're not cheating, putting on muscle is extremely hard and extremely slow. And the best study, it's a pretty old study, but the best study that addresses this question, they took Division I football players. These are young gentlemen that genetically predetermined to put on muscle. They tightly controlled for performance-enhancing drugs, and they actually measured lean body mass. They just didn't have them step on a scale, right? They found that most of the guys put on 5 pounds of lean body mass in a 3-month period. Yeah. Most mere mortals like us probably shouldn't expect to put on more than a pound of lean body mass in a month. Now, running. It's hard to say how fast one can get faster. That's probably not the greatest sentence in the letter. But if 1 week you can run 11 the next week, and if your long run is 6 miles, you can run 6.6 the next week. I like this graphic here because does that project well? Can you see that? It doesn't. So over here, it says make every 4th week a rest week, and next to it, it says listen to your body. I learned the importance of those last two the hard way. And, I'm a little bit heavier runner than most people, and I've got some injuries, so I really have to focus on those two. And a rest week is not like sitting on the couch. A rest week is just decreasing, it's just decreasing the volume and intensity a little bit. So for me, it's not as rigid as every 4th week, right? If you're working a lot, you're not sleeping enough, maybe it's every other week. Things are going well, maybe you can stretch it to every 5th week, but you gotta listen to your body. And I found that if I do those last two really well, the next week after the rest week is a really fun week. You feel like Superman, right? So that's a lot of fun. So the flip side of the question, how long does it take to lose fitness, right? This is the classic good news, bad stories. Actually, the kid said that looked like me. So
Is that a nightmare?
Huh?
It's drool.
It's drool. So the bad news here is that we lose fitness pretty quickly. Within 2 weeks, we start to see significant declines in our VO2 max and the level of enzymes that sort of are markers of fitness. The good news is that once you like hit that 2-week decline, you plateau. If you've been at it well for a long time and you're a pretty well-seasoned athlete, you hit the first 2 weeks and then you plateau out. And for long absences, for even 12 weeks or more, you don't lose much more fitness after that. So if you want to just kind of boil down the whole last 10 minutes into one slide, if you want to make good New Year's resolutions and make them facilitate your other health goals, you want to sort of apply the SMART principles, right? You want them to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. You want to write them down, you want to build a plan, and then you want to work the plan, keeping in mind that consistency is the key, because even short lapses from your fitness routine, even 2 weeks, can significantly increase your fitness. The flip side is don't catastrophize about those small breaks when they do happen to you, right? Either we're talking injury, work, or life, they happen. And once you get out of that 2-week period, another 2 or 3 weeks isn't going to hurt you much more than that. And then I just want to finish up real quick some information about my office. I'm an orthopedic surgeon and a sports medicine doc. I have a subspecialty in shoulders and knees. I have 2 offices. My main one is here in San Francisco. It's up by the Pacific campus of CPMC. And then I have a satellite office in Corte Madera Town Center. There's lots of things I could talk about myself all day, but I'll just tell you one thing. you know, I try to think about how to use technology to add to the patient's experience, not to detract from the patient's experience. And I kind of think most patients are like me. You know, you sit at home and you think of a question or an idea, and if you're forced to try to remember to call the office the next day, it's not likely to happen. If you're able to send off an email or go to the internet and try to find the answer, you're much more likely to have success. So I know that's true of me. So I like email. We do email through this system called DoctorBase. I've got this professional Facebook page and a YouTube channel they're a constant work in process, but I think they are relevant, robust sources of information. And then this is a recent addition, is this Health Loop. Hopefully none of you actually get to use this Health Loop service, because it's a local startup. It's a web-based platform. It's for post-op patients. So it allows daily contact between me and my surgical patients. Yeah, I think it's good. It's a real potential game changer to improve outcomes and decrease complications. So that's all I had.
You've had some really neat articles and research studies that, are kind of, sometimes they come into the public domain. It's like, oh, there's buzz around this, and we'll kind of talk about, well, this is what I think about it.
Right.
Which I appreciate.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm not really sure how much reach I have, but it is fun. It allows me to talk about stuff I like to talk about in a slightly different way. Yeah. Well, any other questions? Comments?
Did you guys revise your goals?